Welcome to Liverpool fans. Today we've got the latest updates of your beloved club Liverpool. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment of breaking news. Let's get started. Jamie Carragher has once again stepped into the heart of the Mohamed Salah debate, this time offering a prediction that feels less like provocation and more like reluctant acceptance. In his view, Salah's Liverpool story is nearing its natural conclusion, not with bitterness or chaos, but with a carefully planned farewell that reflects the scale of his legacy at Anfield. The former Liverpool defender has never shied away from strong opinions on Salah, and earlier this season, he was among the most vocal critics of the Egyptian after comments that appeared to question the club's loyalty to him. Salah's words, delivered just before he departed for the Africa Cup of Nations, were interpreted by many as a public airing of grievances at a moment when Liverpool were already under pressure. Carragher did not hold back at the time, accusing Salah of deliberately choosing moments of vulnerability to strengthen his own position and apply pressure on the club's ownership. Carragher argued that Salah's rare appearances in post-match mixed zones were never accidental, but calculated. In his view, those comments were not emotional reactions, but strategic moves, designed to resonate with supporters and shift the narrative around his future. He believed Salah had waited for a poor result, when frustration was already boiling, to make his point, even suggesting that the timing risked destabilizing the manager and dressing room further. Yet football has a way of softening positions over time, and Carragher's latest comments reflect a more reflective tone. Rather than questioning Salah's motives, he now speaks about his place in Liverpool's history and the inevitability of his eventual departure. Carragher believes that while Salah will still be a Liverpool player through the remainder of this season, his long-term future lies elsewhere, with the club preparing to sanction his exit once the campaign concludes. According to Carragher, Liverpool simply cannot afford to let Salah leave in January. Injuries, particularly the broken leg suffered by Alexander Isak, have stripped the squad of attacking depth and leadership. In that context, allowing Salah to depart mid-season would be an act of self-sabotage. The club needs his goals, his experience, and his presence, especially as Liverpool's ambitions shift increasingly towards securing Champions League qualification and mounting a serious European run. Carragher suggests that the Africa Cup of Nations has come at an opportune moment, giving all parties space to cool tensions and reset emotionally. When Salah returns, the focus will likely be on performances rather than contracts or interviews. However, beneath the surface, Carragher believes the next few months will quietly become a prolonged goodbye, one shaped by mutual understanding rather than open conflict. In his view, Salah's legacy at Liverpool is already secure. He is not just a great player of the modern era, but one of the all-time greats in the club's long and decorated history. His goals, consistency, and ability to deliver in decisive moments have defined an entire chapter of Liverpool's success, both domestically and in Europe. For that reason, Carragher feels his departure should not be rushed or clouded by controversy. Instead, he envisions an emotional farewell at Anfield on the final day of the season. A moment where Salah is celebrated properly, with the fans fully aware that they are saying goodbye to a legend. Carragher describes it as a perfect, choreographed send-off, not in a cynical sense, but as a fitting tribute to a player whose Liverpool journey deserves dignity and respect. Such an ending would mark a sharp contrast to the tension that surrounded Salah's recent comments. It would allow the club to control the narrative, honour his contribution, and move forward without resentment. For Salah, it would provide closure and recognition rather than an abrupt exit overshadowed by disputes. Carragher's comments also reflect a broader acceptance within the Liverpool fan base that change is coming. With the team struggling for consistency and sitting well adrift of the title race, attention has gradually shifted toward transition rather than dominance. Salah, now into his 30s, remains elite, but Liverpool's future planning increasingly points toward a new attacking core. Despite past criticism, Carragher's tone now is one of admiration. He acknowledges that the current Liverpool era will forever be associated with Salah's name, his records, and his influence. Whatever disagreements have existed behind the scenes, Carragher believes they should not define the final memory of Salah at Anfield. As Liverpool prepare for the second half of the season, Salah remains central to their hopes. Champions League qualification, European knockout ties, and restoring some pride after a difficult campaign will all depend heavily on his output. Liverpool head into their trip to the Emirates in a state of quiet dread, carrying the weight of a season that has steadily slipped out of their control. The late collapse against Fulham, conceding an equaliser with barely minutes of stoppage time remaining, was not just another frustrating result. It felt symbolic. A team that once thrived on chaos, pressure, and late drama now seems trapped by its own uncertainty, unable to manage moments that once defined its dominance. Virgil van Dijk tried to strike a defiant tone in the aftermath, insisting there was no reason for Liverpool to approach Arsenal with fear. He spoke about recovery, preparation, and the challenge of facing an unbeaten home side. From a captain's perspective, his words made sense. Elite players cannot afford trepidation, yet the mood among supporters tells a very different story. For many, the idea of Liverpool avoiding defeat in North London feels less like a challenge and more like a miracle waiting to happen. Only a few months ago, Liverpool beat Arsenal at Anfield and looked every inch the stronger side. That win reinforced the belief that little had changed from the previous title-winning campaign. Even when performances were not convincing, Liverpool still had that aura, the ability to find decisive moments when it mattered most. Pundits spoke about belief, edge, and mentality. Arsenal, it was argued, were still learning how to win the biggest games, while Liverpool simply expected to. What followed has been a stunning reversal. Rather than improving, Liverpool deteriorated at an alarming rate. Their title defence was effectively over before November had even reached its midpoint. The gap between the two sides is now an embarrassing 14 points, and the reasons run far deeper than bad luck or a temporary dip in form. This is the consequence of a collective failure that stretches from recruitment decisions to tactical direction and on-pitch execution. The problems began almost immediately after that Anfield victory. Liverpool moved to complete two major transfers, Alexander Isak for a British record fee and Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace. Only one deal was completed, and crucially, it was the one Liverpool could arguably have done without. Isak is undeniably a top-level striker, but committing such vast resources to a number 9 made little sense after already investing heavily in Hugo Ekitike. Meanwhile, the need for defensive reinforcement was obvious. Ibrahima Konate's reliability was already in question, Joe Gomez's injury record was well known, and yet Liverpool delayed and hesitated over Guehi until the opportunity slipped away. That misjudgment has haunted them. A squad that spent more than £400 million in the summer now looks short in key areas halfway through the season. Injuries have exposed the lack of depth, and once again Liverpool are talking about needing reinforcements in January. The irony is painful. Even worse, players they once pursued, such as Guehi and Antoine Semenyo, now appear more likely to end up strengthening Manchester City, further widening the gap Liverpool are desperately trying to close. Defensively, Liverpool have been a shadow of their former selves. Set-piece vulnerability has become routine rather than exceptional, and the removal of the set-piece coach felt more like an admission of failure than a genuine solution. Yet responsibility does not stop there. The entire coaching structure, including Arne Slot, must shoulder blame. Slot has spoken openly about the issues, but his fixes have been temporary, reactive, and ultimately insufficient. There has been some improvement in results, but it has come at a cost. Dropping Mohamed Salah before his departure for the Africa Cup of Nations arguably made Liverpool harder to beat, but also stripped them of creativity and threat. The unbeaten run that followed has been grim rather than encouraging, built on narrow escapes, fortunate decisions, and opponents' mistakes rather than genuine control. Liverpool have drawn games they should have won and won games they probably should not have. Dropped points against promoted sides and mid-table teams have piled up, while late goals conceded after the 90th minute underline a collapse in concentration and authority.